It's anything but par for the course. The upstart TGL Golf League is shaking up one of sport's oldest games. Backed by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, TGL's mix of innovative tech, virtual and live play, and team competition is quickly grabbing notice from young viewers and the entire golf industry. We spoke with co-founder and CEO Mike McCarley about the next big disruption for sports and how he designed TGL specifically for television. So I have found TGL fascinating because I feel like it is part of this bigger media story, which is what I want to talk to you about now, where you have seen ESPN spend relatively small dollars on a property that has rated not quite as high as Major League Baseball, but in the general ballpark of a sport like Major League Baseball, and they've spent orders of magnitudes of money less. And it has made me wonder if we are entering a world where the big sports properties will gravitate toward paying a lot of money for the marquee sports that they know are going to be big hits, then take a lot smaller bets on emerging sports like women's sports or TGL, and then the bucket of sports that are in the middle, F1, Major League Baseball, NHL, may be kind of left hanging and having to accept smaller deals. And I know before you joined TGL, you ran the Golf Channel. You're extremely knowledgeable about this. I'm curious to hear your general take on that hypothesis.
Yeah, I think every sport, every league has different attributes that are probably, you can look at them as, positive and negative from a fan standpoint, consumer standpoint, commercial standpoint. And I think the reality is today you've got the traditional revenue streams from an advertiser standpoint and from a subscriber standpoint that has only been more and more important as streaming has come along. Golf is unique in that it can go from sunrise to sunset. But motorsports and soccer, there's not a lot of commercial opportunities and chances to try and add your traditional advertising like you would have in football and basketball and things like that. So one of the things that we were trying to do from a Tomorrow Sports standpoint is how can we take sports that exist today, and if you're rethinking or trying to reframe them in the modern media environment, how would you not only create it more fan friendly, but how can you create it as a more commercially viable product? And one of the things that we were able to do in partnership with the PGA Tour is to create a version of this that allowed for a different type of commercialization. You can see the LED boards that you can see. You never really see this on a traditional 150, 200 acre golf course, but because we build a venue that looks a lot more like a basketball arena or a hockey arena, you're able to commercialize it in a way that is quite different than what you would be able to do from a traditional. And I think that other media deals that get done, we are trying to create a really good business for what we've set out to do and create long-term accretive value for our partners, whether that be the players, the team owners, the sponsors, and frankly, our media partner. And if we can help our media partners take the rating that they had previously in that same window, or take the same number of hours that they had previously, and improve on that, then we've done our job.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, because I think it's actually fascinating, because your take on this, I think, is I'm not sure I've heard it before, and it makes a lot of sense to me, I think, if I'm understanding it correctly, which is that the essence of certain sports, F1, traditional golf, boxing, sports that do not have natural commercial breaks, may find themselves on streaming services that are not necessarily baked in with the same commercial breaks of traditional TV. And other sports, such as what you have crafted TGL to be, are better fits for a legacy model. And that the essence of the sport may actually dictate where these sports end up in their next iteration of media rights deals. Did I explain that correctly?
I think there are a lot of factors, and I think what streaming services provide And if you go back in time, look at it, broadcast networks provided you, a broad reach, but there were limited window opportunities. Then 24-hour sports networks came on board, and there was pretty much like unlimited windowing opportunities where you could have an event that started and you may not know when it ends, but but because you have a 24-hour sports network, they're going to stick with that. Whereas on a broadcast network, it's a limited window. Now on a streaming service, you have the opportunity to monetize that audience differently than you would in a much more traditional, dual revenue stream, advertising driven world. What we're trying to do is we're just trying to take the pulse of the modern sports fan today and create versions of sports. And we want to do it in collaboration and in partnership with the existing governing bodies and the existing top athletes in the world. And how can we do it in a way that's kind of complementary to that ecosystem? Every sport is not going to be the cup of tea of a certain media outlet, whether it be more traditional or linear or solely streaming. But I think the reality is we're looking at a world in which different sports may be tailored to different audiences for different reasons, and that's just the world that we're living in.